Hello everybody, my name is Leo and two of the videos that have obtained more views in my channel are the ones in which I was comparing the Boss GT1000 versus the Line 6 Helix and the GT1000 Core versus the HX Stomp. The today new video should be considered as part 2 of those videos and it's gonna be focused on feel. This is something many of you have requested. How the Boss GT1000 and the GT1000 Core feel in comparison with the Helix LT or the HX Stomp versus a real amp? Let's find out. Hello once more. Before starting the feel comparison, let me just briefly summarize what feel means for me, explaining the test we're gonna do together. First of all, we will try to match the frequency response of the GT1000 and of the Helix with the one of the real Plexi, both in terms of bass, mid, high equalization and in terms of amount of gain. Then we will check out the dynamic response of the three units, I mean how the modelers cleans up and breaks up according to your touch in comparison with the real deal. Then we will check out how the modelers manage the attack side of the note envelope, where by note envelope I mean the attack, decay, sustain and release. We will focus on the attack because the decay, sustain and release are already compared during the dynamic range test. Finally, we will make the latency test. I mean, real amps are all analog, so they respond pretty quickly to your peak without introducing any latency, as no analog digital or digital to analog conversion occurs. On the other hand, the modeler introduced digital conversion and so they also introduce some latency. I'm not very sensible to latency, as having played a lot of MIDI guitars, I am pretty used to adapt my playing style to the latency introduced by the rig I'm using. But some of you are pretty sensible and therefore they are searching for the modeler which has the faster response to their touch. So, summarizing for me, the feel is how the frequency response is managed, the amount of overdrive, the dynamic response, the note envelope management and the amount of latency introduced by the modelers. You can skip to each of these tests checking out the timecodes in the video description. Finally, for the first time in my channel, I will do a giveaway. So check out the whole video for the rules. I hope you enjoy and please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell, as it would really help me to make more videos like this. Let's start! Here we are with our sound test. First of all, let me describe the signal chain. We have my Sir Classic Antique S that is going into an Electro Harmonics parallel mixer, where are connected the real Plexi in the channel 1, the Helix in the channel 2, and the GT1000 in the third channel. I'm using the same IR for all the three units. The real Plexi is connected to a Sir-reactive load, and then I've loaded my IR of a greenback inside my digital audio workstation, and I've loaded the same greenback IR also in the Helix and in the GT1000. Let's now try to match the sound in terms of gain level and equalization. Real amp. Helix. GT1000. Let's hear the sound once more. Okay, here I've noticed few things. First of all, the Boss GT1000 is a little bit too gainy, while the Helix has less gain than the real deal. Then the Helix is a little bit more nasal and lacks high frequencies, where on the opposite side the GT1000 has too much high frequencies. So the GT1000 has both too much gain and high frequencies. On the other hand, the Helix has less gain and less high frequencies. So let's try to compensate. Here we have a strange thing because as you may have noticed, the Helix has a master volume where a real Plexi is a non-master volume amp, and this master volume of the Helix also influences the gain level, so it's a little bit odd. Some more high frequencies. And then a little bit. This is the best sound I was able to get. Let's move to the GT1000. Totally different. So here we have too much high and too much gain. So let's first of all remove some gain. Okay, and then let's remove some treble. Too much. Now I think that I've come pretty close to the real deal, but the real deal still has, in my opinion, a better representation of the whole spectrum of frequencies. As you may have noticed, both the bass frequencies and the high frequencies are reproduced pretty well. They both are very pleasing. The bass frequencies are more present in the real deal, and they are a little bit too soft in the modelers. I have to say that both the modeler reproduce pretty well the high frequencies and a tiny bit less pleasing than the real deal, but in my opinion they are doing a pretty good job as regards the high frequencies. Let's move to the dynamic response test. I will play very quietly the guitar and then I will raise the gain very softly, very gently. so that we can hear how the amps cleans up and then goes in overdriven territories. Let's start with the real deal. Okay, here we can notice the magic of the tubes, of the real tube amp. When I start growing the force that I put in the string and I rise up the volume, the amp is following very gently. The rising volume is very smooth and then it becomes distorting very smoothly. The movement from clean to overdriven territories is very smooth, and also when the volume starts to decrease it cleans up very gently. On the other hand, both the modelers ramps up and goes down more abruptly. They have less, I would say, level of clean and distortion. When I raise the volume, they start to distort more quickly and they maintain that distortion even if I'm pushing harder and harder, and then they decrease the volume abruptly. So you have something like a very gentle curve in the real deal, and on the other hand you have a much more pronounced curve for the modeler. So the level of distortion rises up much more abruptly and goes down much more abruptly for the modeler in comparison with the tube amp that has this gentle curve that follows, in my opinion, better my playing. In any case, both the modeler cleans up very well. Yes. And when they goes down in volume, some modelers are vibrating too much, where here they are falling down without any vibration, like the real deal, and this is good. Why I'm insisting with the dynamic range? Because the more the amp respond gently to your touch, properly to your touch, the more expressiveness you can maintain in your playing. A way to increase the level of emotion you are going to transmit to your listener is to really play dynamically, playing hardly and then softly, and so that you can add much more emotion to your playing. And so it is very important, in my opinion, that the modelers follow your touch, respond to your touch as the real tube amps. Let's now see how the envelope of the note is managed. Here, in my opinion, they managed pretty well the envelope of the note, and honestly, there are not too many differences. I just think that the boss is a tiny bit better. Here I'm picking both with my finger and with the pick, and so you hear that chick chick. And this chick 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 is a little bit more similar in the Boss GT1000 to the real deal in comparison with the Helix. But really these are little nuances. Very interesting test in my opinion. I would say that The real Plexi is still a little bit better. It has a nicer, more pleasing reproduction of the frequency range, both in terms of low and high frequencies, and the dynamic response of the amp is still a little bit better than the one of the modelers. But in any case, both the modelers, in my opinion, provides a pretty nice reproduction of the Plexi. Let's now move to the latency test. Latency test now. I hope it's gonna be pretty interesting for all of you, as I've not seen these types of videos frequently. Let me describe you how I have set up the test. And as it is the first time I'm doing it, please tell me what do you think and if there are ways to improve this test. First of all, I recorded the guitar directly in my digital audio interface, playing very quickly two notes together, like this. Then I have reamped the sound into my Lele P-split that divides the signal into one side is sent directly into my audio interface once more and the other to the Helix, and then I've done the same thing with the GT1000. Both the GT1000 and the Helix were loaded with just a Fender Deluxe amp and my IR. Nothing more in the signal chain of the two modelers. So finally, in my digital audio workstation, I ended up with three sounds, the direct one and the other two that were recorded using the Boss GT1000 and the Helix. These are the three waves files. You can notice here the direct signal, then there are these two peaks. You can find these two peaks phase inverted here for the first modeler and here for the second one. If we focus on the direct signal first peak, we notice that it occurs just before the millisecond 7983. On the other hand, the same peak occurs just between the millisecond 7983 and 7984 for the first modeler, so a little bit more after a half millisecond from the direct signal. Finally, the same peak for the second modeler occurs a little bit after the millisecond 7985, so a little bit more than 2 milliseconds from the direct signal. So actually there is a latency introduced by the modelers. It is very little. The first modeler introduced a little bit more than half a millisecond of latency, while the second one a little bit more than 2 milliseconds. And so the second modeler is slower than the first one. Now, before revealing which is which, let's write in the comment section below which is the quicker of the two in your opinion, the GT1000 or the Helix? Suspense. Well, the first modeler is actually the GT1000 and the second one is the Helix. So we can say that the Helix introduces more milliseconds of latency than the Boss GT1000. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Final considerations here. Well, first of all, I would say that the dynamic response and the note envelope are managed pretty equally by the two modelers. The real deal is still leading in terms of his ability to clean up and break up smoothly and gently, while the modelers are a little bit less sensitive. As regards the frequency response, I slightly prefer the real deal, which has a little bit more pleasing reproduction of the whole spectrum of frequency. Finally, as regards the latency, the Boss is quicker, but here I would say that for my playing, the latency introduced by both the units is really negligible, and I can play either of the two equally comfortably. But now it's your turn. What do you think? Which one of the two you prefer? Is the latency an issue for you? Please let me know your precious and valuable opinion in the comment below. And please let me also know if you have any suggestion as regards the latency test, and if you want me to do this test with other modelers. But now it's giveaway time. After the video about the Mercuriall Euphoria, link in the card above or description below, I've been contacted by the nice guy at Mercuriall and we have partnership together for this giveaway. Basically, we are giving away a new Euphoria plugin for free. You just have to leave a comment, a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel and to my Instagram account. You can find the rules in the description below. So we have now reached the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did it, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell and leave a thumbs up. It would be of a great help. If you're interested in my IRs, you can check out the link in the card above or description below, where there is also a link to a playlist of songs of mine. Thank you for watching, see you in the next video. Bye bye.